In July of this year, 40% of all national sales of residential properties in the U.S. were cash deals, if you can believe it. That's up from 31% in 2012. In fact, in some markets, the percentage of homes sold without a mortgage this year has exceeded 50%. Here to tell us what's going on with this trend and how to compete is Noah Rosenblatt. He's founder of Urban Digs, which is an analytics and consulting firm. So, Noah, what gives? Who are all these buyers that have cash to shell out for homes?
Well, our data doesn't tell us exactly what the makeup of those cash buyers are, but it's pretty safe to assume that they're a combination of institutional investors. Then you get down to your individual and your foreign investors, and then that leaves with a typical wealthy family that just has extra liquidity to put into second homes or pass it down to their children for first-time purchases.
What about the role of foreign investors? Because this is something that we see a lot in the press, that foreign investors are snatching up properties of all kinds all over the U.S. I hear that from a lot of brokers in the New York area particularly. What's the reality in your view?
Well, I think it's a bit sensationalized. At all times there are foreign investors, but I think the latest statistic is that 6.5% of all transactions are coming from overseas. So that's actually down slightly from last year.
So Noah, you say this is not about the foreign investors. This is actually a function of supply, the tight supply. Substantiate that.
Right. Take Manhattan, for example. 4 years ago, at the height of the crisis, we had about 9,500 active units on the market. Today, we have about 3,800 units on the market. Combined with rising deal volume trends, that has created a dynamic where the leverage pendulum has shifted grossly to the sell side. So buyers are scrambling to do anything in their power to give them more leverage during the negotiating process, leaving cash buyers in the driver's seat.
So in simple terms, it's a seller's market, and this is what buyers are doing to compete. Besides the obvious that cash is king, why is a cash buyer more desirable?
Well, it reduces the uncertainty and removes the risk. If the seller knows that the cash buyer is going to be a quick closing, there's no appraisal risk, there's no credit risk, there's no bumpy bank process, chances are they'll probably go with the cash offer.
How do you compete with that if you just are a normal buyer that wants to finance the home with a mortgage?
The first thing is bid. Obviously, price. In the end, the seller is incentivized by price. What I've found is that the seller will value a cash deal 2 to 3 percentage points higher than a financed offer, which leaves you with trying to find out where you stand against that competing offer.
And that's where really good due diligence comes in, right? Because you could imagine the seller's broker may tell you the wrong thing, may say, hey, we've got all these cash offers to get you to up your offer.
Right. The buying process is a very mysterious one, and the buyer really has to try to get as much intel from the sell-side broker, and then has to decipher which of that intel is credible and which of that intel may be just broker babble. The second thing a buyer can do is they can remove the financing contingency. That means that their escrow deposit is at risk should they not be able to close on the deal. Removing the financing contingency does come with risks though, so you have to talk to your attorney and you have to talk to your lender. It's something you do when you understand exactly what you could lose and you understand that you are probably going to finance this thing with 100% certainty.
All right, finally, Noah, is there anything else that a buyer can do to sweeten the deal for a seller if it's a finance buyer competing with a cash buyer?
Basically what they can do is they can cover some closing costs on behalf of the seller, be flexible in your closing terms. Anything that could be more amenable to the seller for a smoother transaction will only help your case.
We appreciate all of the insights, Noah, and we want to hear from you. Have you had to compete with an all-cash buyer? Have you won? Let us know on Twitter at Yahoo Finance using the hashtag #DestinationHome. For Yahoo Finance, I'm Lauren Lister.
Yahoo!